Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, right off the bat, I want you to step directly into the shoes of a CEO. Just imagine you're sitting at the head of a massive boardroom table, stepping into the absolute high-stakes world of executive decision-making. Every single day, you're faced with crossroads that could either totally catapult your company's growth or, well, severely damage its bottom line. But how do you actually choose the right path? How do you separate all the background noise from the numbers that truly matter?
It really all boils down to one ultimate question. How do you know if a business decision will actually make you money? I know it sounds simple, right? But the mechanics behind answering this accurately, that's exactly what separates the good managers from the absolute legends. Okay, let's dive into this.
Section 1. The cost of decisions.
And moving right along to Section 2, relevant and differential costs.
Listen, before making those million-dollar decisions, we absolutely need a filter to distinguish between the nature of costs. You see, a really common trap is thinking that management is just about looking in the rearview mirror, reviewing what you spent last quarter or last year. But effective management, it's fundamentally about the future. It's about analyzing future-oriented costs to present different alternatives before the decision-making even happens, and then selecting the optimal path. You're out there shaping future opportunities and future profits. If a cost isn't future-oriented, honestly, it just shouldn't be driving your current decisions. And that filter starts with what we call a relevant cost. A relevant cost is a cost of decision, and it has to meet two strict criteria. It is always for the future, and it must differ among the different alternatives you're considering. If a cost stays exactly the same no matter what you decide to do, it's completely irrelevant to your choice.
Let's use a quick analogy to really make this stick. Imagine a brilliant grad student who wants to open a workshop, but they're also considering finishing their postgraduate degree. The tuition fees and the textbooks, those are changeable future costs. They're highly relevant because they only happen if the student actually chooses the alternative to continue their studies. But what about their clothes or their basic rent? Those are irrelevant costs. They're totally fixed. I mean, the student has to wear clothes and have a place to sleep regardless of whether they open a workshop or go to class, right? We just ignore the irrelevant to focus purely on the relevant. Building right on that, we need to distinguish between the different types of costs, which brings us to the differential cost. This is simply the difference in total cost between the two available alternatives. Now, a very, very important note here. This net relevant cost is calculated as a total between two different production levels or choices, not just on a per unit basis. Think of it as the big picture financial gap between choosing path A versus path B.
Section 3. The decision-making process.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we transition from pure theory into the actual practical process you can use today. This right here is your roadmap to maximizing potential profits. It's a clear, sequential four-step process. First, you recognize the problem. What exactly are we trying to solve? Second, you identify the various alternatives. You literally lay all your options out on the table. Third, you evaluate those different alternatives with a rigorous cost-benefit analysis, using the relevant and differential costs we just talked about. And finally, step 4, the selection out of different alternatives, where you adopt the most profitable course of action. It's systematic, it's logical, and it's incredibly effective.
Section 4. Scenario. Make or buy.
Okay, I want to drop you right onto the factory floor for this one. Let's say your company is buying a component, but you actually have the capacity to produce it yourself. Should you make it or just continue buying it? Let's look at the battle of the numbers. Both the present buy option and the proposed make option yield total sales of 16 lakh rupees. The revenue doesn't change at all. But look really closely at the variable costs. If we buy the item, our variable costs are 11 lakh 20,000 rupees. But if we shift to making it in-house, those variable costs drop significantly, down to 10 lakh 24,000 rupees. By evaluating these specific alternatives, we can clearly see the financial advantage starting to take shape.
So, the crucial point is that this reduction in variable cost translates to clear, broader gains. By making the item on the factory floor instead of buying it, the math shows we secure a powerful 4.6% increase in our return on capital employed. There's no way around it. By filtering out the noise and focusing strictly on the relevant differential costs, the right choice becomes mathematically undeniable.
But wait, as any good CEO knows, we absolutely have to look beyond the math. The final selection out of different alternatives involves qualitative factors too. Like, what's the quality of the product on the open market? How reliable is the supplier? And here's a totally crucial one, processing secrets. If the design of your item involves a highly classified trade secret, well, it simply cannot be purchased on the open market. You have to make it in-house, even if the math was tighter. The numbers guide us, for sure, but strategy finalizes the decision.
Section 5. Scenario: dropping a product.
Sometimes to increase profitability, you literally have to figure out if an underperforming item in your lineup needs to be cut entirely. Take a look at this strategic swap. We're analyzing our alternatives side by side. Currently, we produce tables, chairs, and bookstands. Our chairs are sitting at a 40% profit volume ratio. Honestly, not terrible, but what if we present a totally different alternative? What if we project dropping the chairs completely and using those exact same factory resources to introduce a brand new sofa line? Our analysis shows the sofa line would command a massive 62.5% profit volume ratio. We're talking about replacing a low-performing asset with a highly profitable alternative.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real power of relevant costing. By adopting this new product alternative, dropping those chairs and making the sofas instead, our total overall profit for the period jumps by 2,096 rupees. By constantly presenting, evaluating, and making your selection out of different alternatives, you actively engineer higher profits. You don't just sit back and wait for profits to happen, you shape them.
Section 6. Shaping your future profits.
The whole core identity of everything we've covered in this explainer today is empowerment. By learning to ruthlessly separate relevant, future-oriented differential costs from fixed, irrelevant ones, you stop being a victim of past expenses and you become the true architect of your future revenue. So I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. What irrelevant costs are holding back your next big decision? Are you letting past sunk costs dictate your future business maneuvers? Apply this framework, find that relevant difference, and confidently make the decisions that will truly make you money. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.